Your child's meltdowns aren't a discipline problem. They're a silence problem. Think about it. Every waking hour is filled. Toys that talk, screens that flash, classes, activities, constant noise dressed up as love. You call it engagement. Japan calls it something else entirely: overload. In the West, we believe a busy child is a stimulated child. In Japan, a busy child is an unsettled one. There's a quiet difference between raising a child who performs well and raising a child who feels calm inside their own skin. And if you're watching this, you already know which one you're hoping for. For generations, Japanese parents have raised children who focus longer, melt down less, and carry themselves with a stillness that feels almost old-fashioned, not by doing more, by doing far, far less. What they leave out might matter more than anything they put in.
Here's what's coming. Number 3 is about silence and why filling every quiet moment might be the very thing keeping your child anxious. Number 4 will feel strange at first. Japanese toddlers do real chores, not for allowance, not for praise, just because it's who they are in the family. And number 5 goes against almost everything Western parenting has taught you, not rescuing your child from struggle, on purpose. Most people in the West never realize that one of these habits works against everything they thought was good parenting. But stay until the end, because the last habit on this list is the one that quietly holds all the others together. Without it, the rest barely work at all. Let's start with the one nobody talks about. Number 1, silence. Watch a Western parent in a waiting room. The moment their child goes quiet, out comes the phone, a show, a game, a song to hum along to. Silence feels like a problem to solve, a gap that needs filling before boredom turns into a tantrum. In Japan, that same quiet moment gets treated completely differently. A child sitting still, staring at nothing, isn't seen as bored. They're seen as thinking. Japanese parents let that stillness stretch out uninterrupted, trusting that something useful is happening underneath the surface. This comes from a concept called ma. Ma means the meaningful space between things, the pause between notes in music, the emptiness in a room that gives everything else its shape. Applied to parenting, ma means the quiet moments matter just as much as the busy ones, maybe more. Here's what nobody talks about. A mind that's never allowed to sit in silence never learns how to settle itself. It only learns how to be entertained. Every toy you hand over the second things go quiet teaches your child one lesson. Quiet is uncomfortable. Quiet needs fixing. Take that toy away, and something different happens. The child's own mind starts doing the work instead. You don't have to fill every silence. Sometimes the most generous thing you can give your child is nothing at all. Because up next is a habit that looks like an ordinary morning routine, but it's quietly teaching your child who they are. Number 2, chores. In most Western homes, chores come with a negotiation attached. Do this, get an allowance. Skip it, lose screen time. Chores become a transaction, something to avoid until the reward or the punishment forces the issue. And most children learn early on to treat helping as optional. In Japan, something different happens. Often as young as 2 or 3 years old, a toddler carries their own plate to the sink, wipes down a table, helps sort laundry, badly, clumsily, but proudly. Nobody pays them for it. Nobody has to ask twice. This is called otetsudai. It simply means helping, but in practice it means something deeper. Helping isn't a task assigned to a child. It's proof that the child belongs to the family, that they're a real contributor, not just someone being looked after. You've been living with this backwards for years. Chores framed as punishment teach a child that contribution is a burden. Chores framed as belonging teach a child that contribution is identity. There's no bribery in otetsudai because there's no need for one. A child who helps because they belong doesn't need convincing, they need inclusion. And this is the part that changes how you see everything else, because the next habit asks you to do something that feels almost impossible, stepping back when every instinct says step in. Number 3, struggle. A child fumbles with their shoelaces, frustration builds, their face tightens, a whine creeps in, and within seconds, a Western parent is kneeling down, fixing it for them. It feels like love. It feels like protection. But watch closely, and you'll notice something. The child never actually finishes the struggle. Someone else finishes it for them. In Japan, that same moment plays out differently. A parent notices the fumbling shoelaces too, and waits. Not coldly, not carelessly, but with quiet trust that the child can find their way through it. The frustration is allowed to exist, unrushed, uninterrupted. This is Gaman. It means quiet endurance, the ability to sit inside discomfort without needing it to end immediately. Japanese parents don't see mild struggle as something to prevent. They see it as something to protect, because it's where steadiness gets built. Most people in the West never realize that constant rescue teaches a child the opposite of resilience. It teaches them that discomfort is unbearable, that someone will always appear to make it stop. Gaman teaches something else entirely, that discomfort is survivable and often temporary, and usually followed by something like pride. Number 4, praise. Western parenting runs on it. You're so smart, you're the best, you're a star. Every drawing gets applauded, every small win gets celebrated like a headline. The intention is good. Build confidence, build self-esteem. But somewhere along the way, a child starts learning to perform for the applause instead of doing things for their own sake. In Japan, praise looks almost restrained by comparison. A child isn't told they're the smartest in the room. They're taught to notice how their actions affect the people around them. Did they share? Did they wait their turn? Did the group move forward together? The individual matters, but rarely more than the whole. This comes from a concept called wa. Wa means harmony, the value placed on group cohesion over individual standing out. In a culture shaped by wa, a child's worth isn't measured by how they outperform others. It's measured by how well they belong within them. You've been living with this for years without naming it. Constant individual praise quietly teaches a child to seek approval before they seek meaning. Wa teaches something steadier, that contribution to something larger feels better and lasts longer than applause ever could. A child raised on applause chases the next compliment. A child raised on wa learns to simply belong and finds that's usually enough. Up next is a habit most Western parents get completely backwards, and it happens in the most ordinary place imaginable, right in front of other people. Before we go further, take a breath. Think of one moment today when you did something quiet for your family. No one clapped, no one noticed. You just did it because it needed doing. That feeling, small and unremarkable, is closer to what Japan builds in its children than anything on a certificate or a sticker chart ever could. Sit with that for a second. Notice how steady it feels. Now let's keep going, because the next habit changes something you've probably said to your child 100 times without realizing it. Number 5, correction. A child acts out at the grocery store or a family dinner or right in the middle of a playground. In the West, the correction happens right there, right then, in front of everyone. A sharp word, a raised voice, a public lesson meant to teach a lasting one. In Japan, that same moment unfolds quietly, almost invisibly. A parent leans down or steps a few feet away and speaks in a low voice meant for one set of ears only. The correction still happens, but it happens without an audience. This comes from a concept called Enryo. Enryo means restraint, a deep cultural instinct to hold back, to consider how your actions land on someone else's dignity before you act. Applied to parenting, Enryo means discipline is never meant to embarrass, it's meant to guide, quietly, without a witness. Most people in the West never realize that public correction teaches a child something unintended, not the lesson itself, but the fear of being seen failing. Enryo removes that fear entirely, protecting the child's sense of face even in the middle of discipline. A child corrected in private learns the lesson. A child corrected in public learns to be ashamed. Only one of those actually changes behavior for the better. And this is the part that changes how you see everything else, because the next habit isn't about what you say to your child at all. It's about what they watch you do when you think no one's paying attention. Number 6, and this is the one most people in the West have never even considered. Western parenting leans heavily on words. Explain the rule, repeat the rule, explain it again, a little louder this time, hoping repetition eventually turns into compliance. Say it enough times, the thinking goes, and it will finally stick. In Japan, something quieter is happening in the background the entire time. A parent bows to a neighbor, removes their shoes at the door without announcing it, speaks gently on the phone, even during a hard conversation. No lesson is given, no rule is stated. The child simply watches and absorbs, and one day does the same thing without ever being told to. This is called Minarai. It means learning by watching, mastering a skill or a value through quiet observation rather than direct instruction. In traditional Japanese craftsmanship, apprentices learned this way for years before ever being taught with words. Parenting works the same way. Here's what nobody talks about. A child hears maybe a fraction of what you say to them, but they see almost everything you do. Every rule repeated 100 times teaches far less than one calm action, witnessed quietly, without commentary. You don't need better words. You need behavior worth copying. And this is the one that ties everything together, because up next is a habit that looks like nothing at all, empty time on purpose, and it might be the most powerful thing on this entire list. Number 7, empty time. Look at a Western child's weekly schedule. Soccer on Monday, piano on Tuesday, tutoring, art class, another practice, back to back, week after week. Every gap gets filled with something labeled enrichment. An empty afternoon feels like a missed opportunity, a moment wasted that could have been spent building some future advantage. In Japan, a different value shapes the calendar. Time gets left open, deliberately. Unscheduled afternoons aren't seen as gaps to fix. They're protected, almost sacred, treated as something a child needs just as much as any lesson or activity. This comes from a concept called Yutori. Yutori means spaciousness, room to breathe, both in time and in mind. Japanese parents don't see empty hours as wasted. They see them as the exact conditions a child's imagination and focus need in order to grow. You've been living with this backwards for years. A packed schedule looks like investment, but it often produces a child who can't sit with an unstructured moment without reaching for a screen. Yutori produces something rarer, a child who can be quietly, comfortably alone with their own thoughts. Boredom isn't the enemy, it's the doorway your child needs to walk through to find their own ideas. Save the next one for last, because that habit doesn't just add to this list, it changes how you see every single habit that came before it. Number 8. And this is the one that ties everything else together. Most Western bedtimes end the same way. A rushed goodnight, a quick recap of the day's highlights, maybe a reminder about tomorrow's schedule. The day closes without much reflection at all. and the child drifts to sleep having never really looked back at what happened. In many Japanese homes, bedtime includes something quieter, a few simple questions, asked gently. What did someone do for you today? What did you do for someone else? And did you cause anyone trouble? No lecture follows, no punishment waits at the end, just the questions and the space to answer them honestly. This is a simplified version of Naikan. Naikan means inside looking, a method of self-reflection built around 3 quiet questions that turn attention away from what you deserve and toward what you've received and given. Even young children can practice a version of it, a few sentences, a few minutes, every single night. This is the one habit that makes everything else on this list actually work. Silence gives a child space to think. Chores give them belonging. Struggle gives them steadiness, but Naikan gives them something none of the others can, the habit of noticing all of it every single day. A child who reflects like this doesn't grow up assuming the world owes them ease. They grow up aware of it, grateful for it, gently accountable within it. What they discovered generations ago might be the simplest parenting tool the West has never picked up. 3 questions, a few quiet minutes, and a child who slowly learns to see their own life clearly. 8 habits. Not one of them involves doing more. Silence instead of noise. Chores instead of bribery. Struggle instead of rescue. Harmony instead of applause. Correction without an audience. Modeling instead of repeating, empty time instead of a packed schedule, and a few quiet questions before sleep, every single night. None of it is complicated. None of it requires more energy, more money, more effort poured into your child's day. If anything, it asks you to do less and trust more. And if you're watching this, you already know how exhausting the alternative feels. Filling every moment, fixing every struggle, praising every step, hoping it adds up to a calmer child somewhere down the line. It rarely does. Space does that instead. Your child doesn't need more discipline. They need more space to become who they already are. If any of this gave you one thing to think about differently, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And subscribe, because every week we go a little deeper into the quiet wisdom Japan has been living by for centuries.